Thanks.
So welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on Monday, April 7th. Everybody's here. Councillor Ryan's attending virtually, so welcome. Call to order. Any added items? We have one added item in closed SRD. So that will be number 5, I think. 4. Okay. VoIP second 16, I guess. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Wilson. No, I don't. That's another chair. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of February 3rd. Any errors or omissions noted? I don't see anyone, so we'll adopt the minutes by consensus. Okay, into new business. Spring budget adjustments. Who's going to take that away? Go ahead, Director Linderman.
Thank you. Today I'm here to present the proposed adjustments to the 2025 operating and capital budgets, beginning with the high-level overview of the 2025 property assessment values that have now been finalized. The total taxable assessment has increased to $1.83 billion, representing a 6.7% increase over 2024. The average single-family home in our community is now assessed at $403,256, which is up 7.45%. Commercial assessments have increased overall by 1.5%. However, the average commercial property value has declined slightly to $971,988. So I'll jump right into the proposed adjustments to the 2025 operating budget. There is a proposed increase of $503,771. This increase is entirely offset by non-tax revenue sources, including grants, user fees, and reserves. So as a result, these changes will have no impact to the municipal tax rate discussions. The key adjustments include an increase of $200,000 for the Sportsplex feasibility study. This is a 2024 carry forward, which is funded through the ACP grant. There is a decrease of $11,125 from the NRED Economic Development Grant. This amount was utilized in 2024 and thus needs to be taken out of 2025. There's an increase of $291,778 for the Alberta School Foundation requisition. As Council is aware, this is a provincial pass-through on the property tax bills. A decrease of $78,125. This is a savings from tax-funded salaries and training expenses. On the other side, there's an increase of $51,000 in salaries and training for the utility operations. This will be funded through a transfer from utility reserves. And finally, an increase of $50,000 for the day camps that are being piloted this year. This program will be completely funded through user fees. Typically, I would present the tax rate information at this time along with the budget adjustments. However, we are continuing discussions with Alberta Treasury and Municipal Affairs in regards to the OFL debenture. So at this time, Treasury has confirmed it will not support debt forgiveness, and Municipal Affairs has declined providing matching capital funding to repurpose the OFL debenture into an infrastructure repair program. With that said, the first 2025 payment, which is due in April, will be made using our reserves, specifically from the proceeds of the OFL sale. I am anticipating presenting tax rate scenarios next week at the April 14th council meeting, subject to receiving Treasury's decision on the OFL refinancing. There are also external pressures for council to consider. The Alberta school tax, as was mentioned in the adjustments above, was increased substantially this year, specifically for residential properties. The total increase is $569,199 over 2024, which is a 12.2% increase. Unfortunately, this increase is not split across the assessment base as a whole. It is split between residential and non-residential. So while our non-residential properties will see a decrease to their share of the education requisition, residential properties will see an increase of approximately 17%. So while this is a provincial levy, it will significantly affect homeowners, and in turn, it limits our flexibility to adjust the municipal rate. And so I'll leave the operating at there before proceeding to capital. Does council have any questions in regards to the operating?
Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the Director of Corporate Services. And I apologize for my slowness, but can you help me draw the connection from the RFD sheet that talks about 292,000 for Alberta School Foundation requisition, and you just mentioned our requisitions up 570,000, or about 17%. Help me understand and connect the dots, what I'm missing. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Sorry, I knew that would be a question. So the 291,000 is an increase from what was budgeted for 2025. I had already knew the assessment had gone up, so I had already accounted for that. However, the province increased their tax rates as well. So that is where the 570 now comes in.
Go ahead, Councillor Ryan. Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and truly a supplemental here. So now can you help me understand, and I know you mentioned the tax bylaw will be coming forward at council's next meeting a week from now. Again, referencing the RFD, when I see, you mentioned there's going to be puts and takes through grants and reserves and nothing impacting the tax. But help me understand the mathematical gymnastics then, because relative to the education component, there is going to be either through higher assessment and higher tax payment, or through the mill rate, right? Or again, what am I missing?
For the education specifically, yes, that will be an increase to homeowners, but that is, does not take, it's not municipal tax rate that will increase because of that. It is a pure pass-through from the province to our homeowners.
Okay, CEO Williams.
And just to add to the OFL debenture piece, the reason why it's not coming forward right now is because we do not know exactly what that tax-supported debenture payment is going to be. So we hope by first reading on the 14th of April, we'll have clarity from Treasury Board on that. But we'll update council in closed session on those negotiations to date.
Perfect. So I will quickly run through the capital budget adjustments. So there is a proposed increase of $732,065 to the capital budget, which would bring the total to $6.26 million. These key changes include an increase of $537,000 in 2024 project carry forwards, a decrease of $260,000. This was a project that we have taken out. It was the power distribution system at the Sportsplex. It's being deferred to 2026. And then an increase of $455,000 in new projects. This includes a land acquisition, records digitization, operations center upgrades, including IT enhancements, and then preliminary engineering work for that project that was taken out at the Sportsplex for the power distribution. So all of these proposed capital changes will be funded through the LGFF grant and from transfers from reserves. And I would open up to any questions on those.
Okay, not seeing any questions. Are we ready for the motion for spring adjustments? Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. I move that we accept for information and direct administration to bring the 2025 spring budget adjustments back to the April 14th regular council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to page 13, infrastructure services policies. Who's speaking to this?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We have James Crozier, Manager of Planning and Infrastructure, with us here today. James.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Council, CAO. If it's all right with the chair, I think I'll just go through all three since the changes are relatively minor. So we're bringing forward 3 policies for review, those being 701C encroachment agreements, 703C certificates of compliance, and 704C civic addressing. Just a note on the third recommendation, it says 704C rules for flying flags. That should say 704C civic addressing. So for 701C and 703C, no material changes are being recommended. The policies have just been converted to the new template, and some language has been updated just to reflect the current organizational structure. 704 or 704C has been brought onto the new template. There was one change that we are proposing. In the existing policy, it still leaves road naming authority with the Municipal Planning Commission. We are recommending that council give that authority to the Planning and Infrastructure Department. That's primarily because the civic addressing itself already lays within the department's purview. This would just allow for consistency and efficiency. If council wishes to have that road naming authority remain with them, we can make that change before bringing it back to council for approval. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So do we have any questions? Oh, that was an easy one. Okay, who would like to make a motion to bring this back? Councillor Blatz, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. Are we doing 3 separate motions on these then, I'm assuming? Or are we lumping them all together? Should I do all 3 at once then?
I would say do all 3 at once, there's
All
no
right.
changes.
Sure, that's fine then. I move that council accepts and as presented and request policy 701C encroachment agreements to be brought to a future council meeting for final approval. That council accepts as presented and request policy 703C certificates of compliance be brought to a future council meeting for final approval. That council accepts as presented amended and request policy 704C rules for civic addressing to be brought back to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. All in favor? That motion's carried. Okay, moving on to community services policies. Who's presenting on this?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That would be Director Lapointe. Guy, take it away.
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor Walsh and Council. Today, administration is presenting recommended changes to the slate of communication policies as listed. At a high level, administration recommends rescinding 4 policies, those being social media, media relations, brand standards, and plain language. As mentioned previously, the detail contained within these policies will be addressed through the town's new communication strategy. Additionally, the social media standards guidelines for public use will be listed on our website and directly on our social media channels. The 2 remaining policies have been updated to reflect current realities and maintain a consistent approach to these specific areas. The communication and response policy looks to provide an acknowledgement response to inquiries within 3 days, with a response from the mayor or CAO completed within 5 days. Administration will also separate expectations for posting the council highlights, which is now 3 days, from the council meeting minutes, which were maintained at 7 days. As for the engagement policy, the terminology was updated to reflect industry practices and align with provincial standards. You'll notice the change to the name of the policy, which is now public participation. This was done to ensure that both council and administration are using a common language when discussing expectations for public participation. In simplest terms, public participation refers to the entire process and the types of engagement that are to be used in specific situations. Administration also included a summary of the IAP2 spectrum and typical engagements included therein. As this policy required approval prior to this council's term, we thought it would be good to revisit the details and expectations involved in the public participation process. With a common understanding of this process, administration also recommends the inclusion of the IAP2 spectrum in the RFD template for future use. This will be used to ensure administration's recommended plans for public participation align with council's expectations. We'll also note the introduction of the public participation plan that reflects the policy language used and clearly states council's planned engagements over the coming year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments you may have.
Do we have any questions? Okay, looks like another easy one. Okay, motion to accept for information. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I make the motion that council accept the communication policies as recommended and instruct the Chief Administrative Officer to present them at a future council meeting for final review and approval.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to page 40, our bylaw 2025-07 amendment. Who would like to speak to this?
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor Walsh. This one will be myself. So the best laid plans of mice and men don't always go to plan. The procedural bylaw, which was recently passed by council, we're bringing it forward for consideration for amendment already. Two particular items, as you'll notice on your screen. Number one is a definition around electronic means, and that's just to match recent-ish changes to the public hearing sections of the MGA. Rather minor. The larger issue is certainly falls within my court and something I neglected to pass forward to the committee, and that's around notice of motions. The intention, certainly from administration's point of view, going into the procedural bylaw review was to provide the notice of motion section as a means for councillors to bring forward individual items, such as what Councillor Wilson did last meeting or 2 meetings ago with his animal shelter notice of motion. So what's before you now is a total repeal of our current notice of motion section and replacing it with a somewhat briefer but totally revised section. So the previous notice of motion section, if I had to summarize it, would be to provide council with a means to reconsider already passed motions. The new notice of motion section still has that ability within, but is more directed towards councillors having the ability to bring forward individual ideas or motions to council for consideration, much following the process that was just laid out in the animal shelter notice of motion. Happy to take any questions on it, but I think the verbiage, if you had a chance to review it, roughly lays out how administration sees that process working. And yeah, that's all I have for now.
Is there any questions? I don't see any. Everybody's becoming as quiet as I am. That's interesting. Okay. Councillor Ryan, I knew I could depend on you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh, and appreciate that. I just had a question with regards to the definition. Since, with regards to the electronic, there is already a definition, I believe, built into the body of the bylaw, because when we made the motion last week, or the last meeting, I should say, for me to be on electronically, it was spelled out in there as what electronics is already. So I'm just wondering, would that not already cover the definition, or do you feel, CEO Williams, that we need to have that definition moved up into the line of the definitions? Because I thought it was pretty clear already that was in there about what electronic means. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and Marcy can jump in if needed. It's just more of covering our bases from the public hearing standpoint of the MGA's public participation framework. And Marcy, do you want to add something?
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor Ryan, we did have electronic means in the original bylaw before the committee had it. We took it out, feeling that what we put in for electronic communications would be suffice. However, with the better clarity that we're bringing forward regarding public hearings specific, this is the MGA language that we would like to support and put forward. Both should remain in the procedural bylaw.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much for that clarification, because I know that we had quite a bit of a discussion about electronics, and mostly depending on, people coming in and doing the meetings electronically. So I thought that we had left some kind of a definition in there, but fair enough. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Mayor Dahl, did you have a question? Okay, Councillor Cummings, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just wondering if 138.2 should be moved to 141.1, since 138.2 is specifically about what 141 covers. So 138 is talking about when a reconsideration can't be done, and paragraph 141 is all about the reconsideration section. It just seems to flow better for me if it was moved. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or cares. Say that 138.2 should be moved to 141 as item 1 in paragraph 141. Just because its purpose matches more closely with paragraph 141 than it does with 138.
C.O. Williams, your thoughts?
Yep, I think that's a fair amendment. If council has no objections, I believe we can work that into the final draft for Monday, or next Monday.
Any other questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the CAO, and I don't know if I can articulate my question clearly enough, but it relates to the NOM, the Notice of Motion process, and I think I understand that, but can you help add a little bit of color for me in terms of, through the course of a discussion on a particular topic within the agenda, say, for example, costs and budget, a motion can be made through that discussion, right? Like if we're talking budget and I want to ask administration to prepare a downloading summary, that's legit and okay, right? I don't need a NOM for that process. Can you help just kind of fill that in a little bit for me? Thanks.
No, that's a really good question, in fact. I think notice of motion is for something that's not generally going to be considered on the agenda already, or something council's not actively considering. Under your scenario, let's say on Monday, if we're council's discussing budget, and you think provincial downloading or the cost of the carbon tax to date, which are topics came up previously, that you, for example, want administration to prepare a summary for, you can make that motion and council can vote on at that time, because under my interpretation, that is the topic at hand. And if council wants more information, council's entitled to it. Just when administration is tasked with work, it should be all of council directing the CAO to undertake that work, instead of one councillor wanting a piece of information or another wanting another. But your scenario is to describe it absolutely. That if council thinks they need more information, a motion can be placed on the floor, and council can direct the CAO to bring back that item.
So do we have any more questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Councillor, or Mayor Dahl?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that council accept the procedural bylaw amendment, bylaw 2025-07 as presented, and direct the chief administrative officer to bring forward to a future council meeting for consideration. as amended.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we're going to go into closed session, and the process has changed somewhat. So everybody, we now have reached the portion of the agenda that requires us to move into a closed session. At this time, the live stream of this meeting will now end. For those members of the public who have been watching, the full recording of the open portion of the meeting capturing all decisions made today will be available on the town's website shortly after the meeting has concluded. You can visit www.olds.ca. So I'll entertain a motion to go in camera. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I may need help with that last added item to close, but I make the motion that we go into closed at 1:26 for the following items. Item 1, FOIP Section 17, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third-party golf course. Item 2, FOIP Section 17, again, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party relative to development. And item 3, Section 21, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations, Treasury Board. And the added item, number 4, SRD, Section 16, FOIP. Somebody can help me with the narrative around Section 16? Disclosure harmful to? Okay, business interests of a third party. And with all those remaining, okay, at 1:27.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you. We're back in council, or committee of the whole. So rise and report, item number 1, what 17, disclosure harmful to business and interest of a third party. Who would like to report on that? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I make the motion that council accept for information the golf course discussion as presented by the CAO.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, item number 2, FOIP Section 17, disclosure harmful to business interest of a third party. Who would like to count, or Mayor Dahl?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to, I'm sorry, I got myself all confused with the discussion. Move that we accept for information FOIP Section 17 development.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. And item number 3, FOIP Section 21. This is about the Treasury Board. Who would like? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. I move that we accept the report on the negotiations with the Treasury Board as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. And item number 4, South Ridge Regional Wastewater Commission, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. I move that we accept the SRD update as presented for information.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. So I declare us adjourned for today. Thank you for everybody for watching. 2:40 p.m.